Hello everyone and welcome back. So, Creative Assembly have just done their Community Inbox Spring 2026 livestream. This is between two members of Creative Assembly staff, Josh, which is the influencer manager, and Roger, who is, I guess, the next face for Total War. He's one of the directors and he's been popping up a lot recently, ever since, well, basically Rob Bartholomew was ousted. Now, it's a pretty long stream and there is a decent amount of faff, so I'm just going to go over all the bits of news that we have. So, yeah, let's just jump right in, shall we? I had to rewatch some parts, but there was a lot of faff. We're going to separate into sections. First up with Warhammer 3. New DLC format was made to get DLC out due to community requests of certain characters, and then faster DLC is kind of like the plan, and it's still an experiment, so things can change around when it comes to these character packs, for example. They won't be the same format all the time. They could change, new lords, new heroes, whatever, right? And it all kind of makes sense. It basically goes into the second point saying that, yeah, you know, it's subject to what is needed in a DLC, which, fair enough. I guess that is something that is quite important because some characters or some races don't actually need legendary lords. They need legendary heroes and certain specific missing iconic units. Shadows of Change was considered Dark Days, and they still think the 1v1 format works, so I'm assuming that means that there might be more in the future. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Tides was great. I think the only issue was obviously Shadows of Change, and then a little bit of Omens of Destruction, but I think they were just trying to get their footing there. Characters are chosen by popularity design and Games Workshop. Obviously, yes, Games Workshop do have a right to say yes, this character yes, and this character no. I'm perfectly fine with that, because at the end of the day, it's their IP. Bashiva, so the first character for the first ever character pack, was picked out to be left field and interesting. A lot of DLC ideas get planned and then never really get made or moved somewhere else, sometimes outright cancelled. This is something that was mentioned with regards to Neferata, because obviously she was going to be the first character pack, but she was moved to be FLC, which makes a lot of sense. Proving Grounds betas are considered to be a success. No word on Siege beta news just yet. There might be a second beta though. They're kind of skirting with the idea there, depending on how things go. And obviously if the changes are going to be very radical, they talk about, you know, players having different expectations about stuff. And yeah, I can agree. Some stuff in the Siege beta, the original one, was quite good and other stuff was downright awful. The focus on Warhammer 3 is to get the 2 DLCs out on time, and there might be some more betas, but there's no real news there just yet. End Times development is going well. They're changing stuff where needed, testing with a vet group, so again, kind of just like, because originally they said that the vet group didn't exist, and yeah, okay, that's good. And a couple of lords are already playable, so that's good to see. At the end of the day, we want this to go well, because yeah, there's a lot of expectations for the End Times. Like, oh my god, so much expectations. Sophia and Holsham are considered one team, no A or B team. That's kind of expected. I don't know why there was a lot of people just kind of like going, oh yeah, you know, it's going to be Sophia to save Total War, when it's just a bit of everyone. Last thing we need is more division, like between them, because it just makes no sense. And then lastly, it's like, oh, more End Times content soon, TM. Which, yeah, okay, fair enough. It's something that is going to take a while, especially as they start locking down ideas. They don't want to put an idea out. I think this actually happened during Warhammer 1 or Warhammer 2, where they were saying ideas for characters and then they ultimately didn't come into the game. That did happen with Free Kingdoms, for example. So they're trying to keep quiet. And at the end of the day, yes, that's fine, as long as we know that things are going well. We're going on to Med 3 now, not a lot of information there. They consider Med 3 to be one of the most important games, and Roger has concerns that it needs to fit expectations, so you either have a strong vision for the game. Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a real historical game in a while. Well, Pharaoh Dynasties, yes, but obviously that wasn't fit for the niche that most people wanted, so they want to make sure that this one hits the mark. They can't have another flop, essentially, which, yeah, I guess even I'm really looking forward to Med 3, so time is going to tell here. They did say, for example, that they want more feedback, and if you want to be vocal about feedback, the best place to go is the forums, so the CA forums rather than the Reddit and stuff, because they'll keep more eyes on that. They've said a lot of, yeah, stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned, which kind of expected. They can't really talk about something which is still considered into pre-production. Obviously, it's in a playable state in certain parts, but it's still considered pre-production. But there is going to be more news on Med 3 next week, which is always good to see. I think when it comes to Med 3, because obviously this is going to be after 40k, you can't expect too much information being put out just now. A lot of stuff is going to change, and that's okay. That's all we can really say. That's actually just okay. Okay, 40k. Dev work on 40k is wonderful, as per Roger, and there are studio-wide playtests going on, which, yeah, this game is likely going to be either at the end of this year or likely next year, depending on, I'm assuming GTA. A lot of studios skirt around, like Rockstar a lot. They want to avoid releasing at the same time as that. But yeah, studio-wide playtest, that's actually expected. Like there's been like a lot of like whispers going around about how things are going. At the end of the day, all sounds interesting. Next is ambient units fighting as soon as a battle starts. This was Josh mentioning it. So apparently he started a battle and yeah, there were already like fighting going on between like guard and orcs and stuff. This may or may not make it to live. Again, anything kind of spoken here is may or may not. It sucks that this kind of gets mentioned and we just don't know what exactly he meant by it because, yeah, it's not very descriptive, but we're going to have to wait and see. They did finally talk about space battles, kind of skirting around it. They want it. It's not going to be at launch if it ever does happen, but maybe it just doesn't make it. This is going to be very difficult. I mean, CA have never really gotten naval battles right, barring Fall of the Samurai, which was pretty decent, but yeah, I imagine this would be a gargantuan task because, yeah, it's not naval combat, it's space combat. There has to be a lot more nuances to it. I do wonder how much work is being put into it. Remember, Warhammer 3, well, Warhammer 1, actually did have naval combat. It's just never got implemented in the game because you can still find unit cards in the game files for the stuff in Warhammer 1. So hopefully it does. I would really love to see space battles in the line of, like, you know, we've had space battle games for 40k and it would be fantastic to get that, but it depends on Warcore and depends on just general how much money would it make and how much could they be able to charge for it, I guess. Then summer campaign work reveal. Apparently that's the plan. Summer, they're going to do campaign stuff. They're going to show off some campaign. And they do mention in another point of the interview that like 40k is likely going to have a lot of DLC. And they mention the fact that yes, it's a 40-year-old franchise with hundreds, if not thousands, of books and lore, just easy enough. And I mean, we spoke about this in the past. 40k is going to be a money farm for Creative Assembly, and that's always going to be expected, just as long as everyone keeps getting stuff, right? And you know how Games Workshop are doing stuff with 40k now is loads of factions are coming out, loads and loads of factions. So yeah. Next section is all the Total War titles. So this is the games before Total War Warhammer, and I'm assuming Pharaoh also. I'm not sure if Pharaoh actually has it. So they are planning, where possible, to have the mod manager for the oldest games. So that's good. That's good. Mod manager would be lovely. I think it works out really well for Warhammer 3. So it'd be good to see it for Three Kingdoms and the rest. They mentioned Dauntless Days, which was actually really surprising. Mostly because, well, first up they called it Lord of the Rings mod when I think the modders got like a DMCA about that. So it's kind of weird. But at the end of the day, it's good to see that they're looking at what people are seeing as popular. They are going to go back to all the titles to fix some bugs if possible, but they do mention, it's like, well, how do we pay for it? Which I guess is, budgeting and stuff like that can be a concern. It depends. I'd like to see, fixes come in, but not breaking the mods if the modders have long left. Community bug fix mods and stuff like that. The faction mods. Like Free Kingdom has a huge modding scene. Obviously, the map was expanded and there's loads of playable characters thanks to modding. Just kind of worried about that myself. They do mention Rome 2 and Shogun 2 about possible looks, but it's a stretch goal. And new stuff, this is what I'm interpreting, is not out of the question for all the games. I think that's what they said. I mean, we've seen that happen before with Rome 2, where they came back out of the nowhere and just did a DLC. That was CA Sophia. I don't know if they mean that or it's just like refining stuff. Either way, it will be good to see. There's a big back catalogue for Total War titles, and they need to be shown with love and respect rather than just kind of breaking, right? I think that's really, really important. And lastly is the anything else section. So there's a few things there. New engine was needed due to engine splinters. All new games should be able to inherit features easily going forward thanks to Warcore. So yeah, this is something that we know. So for example, Attila fractured into what was going to be Warhammer, and then there was a fracture in between that to go into Three Kingdoms, which is why Three Kingdoms has different systems that didn't make it, for example, into Pharaoh 2, which had its own system thanks to Troy. I know that sounds really confusing, and it kind of sucks because the politics mechanic, like everything in diplomacy, was very, very good in Free Kingdoms, and it would have been really nice for Pharaoh. I think actually Pharaoh would have benefited of that very, very well. So like they want to avoid that, and that's great. That's great. At the end of the day, if there's a really cool feature in Med3, for example, and then 10 years down the line they do, I don't know, Thrones of Britannia 2, and they think that the system would work there from Med3, they could easily have it transported without too many engine splinters going off, or branches, or fractures. There's a lot of terms for it. Next community stream is going to happen in a few months. Cool. They're going to start streaming again more often though, so they said a few weeks and everything like that. That's always good. The more news coming out, the better, because if not, you know, people are going to get frustrated, which, in all fairness, I feel like there's a decent amount of frustration already. Keeping games alive for longer is something Roger wants, DLC and the rest, but not every game should have that. Yeah, I agree. There are certain games that need to be kept alive. You know, Warhammer 3, 40k, Med 3 is likely going to be very good for DLC in terms of that. If you want more content, especially if they go around the route, the way everything sounded is going to be kind of similar to like Crusader Kings in that regard, where they can just keep expanding and expanding and expanding. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But then if there's a smaller title, like another Thrones of Britannia, for example, it's not going to be that long-lived. Sometimes there's just going to be a smaller Total War game. And in all fairness, I still think that they should really experiment with the Saga system, just make it a little better than what it already was, right? Last thing is, they won't talk about cancelled Total War projects, but acknowledge that there are some, which, yeah, just makes sense. They talked about, like, games specifically, but we know, like, there have been whispers of, like, DLCs and shit, which is perfectly fine. You know, not everything makes it into a game. How many times have you played another video game and they've had cancelled stuff? Or, like, we know about, like, cancelled other video games. I mean, regarding here, hyenas and shit. Which I imagine it's not the only thing that's been cancelled in recent years, but it's just a natural course of game dev. It's just, in my opinion, I just hope that, you know, they've learned from it and not spent too much money on something that is ultimately not going to see the time of day. Because you don't want issues to happen, which then, as far as we're aware, I have to say that they're kind of legally affected Shadows of Change. That's it in terms of information. It was an hour stream and it really wasn't that much talk. I do want to highlight that Roger kept like saying, it's like, oh, if anything goes wrong, blame me, not the devs and stuff. This is like what happened last time with other people that we've seen at CA. Every time there's been a shit show, there's always been the guy that takes the brunt of the work, which is sad that even has to happen, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I mean, Roger seems nice, at least, right? Hopefully there's no shit shows to come, because at the end of the day, we all want Total War to do well so we can actually get more video games, more DLCs, more content in general, so we can play around with it. And they did say that they want to talk about more communication and stuff, which, end of the day, is always good. A lot of talk about, like, oh yeah, you know, we've upgraded the studio, the previous setup was fine in my opinion, but I guess they have to spend that money before the end of the financial year. Ultimately, this is a good start to some new communication. Let's hope that it continues and they don't lag behind. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the coming days. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of discussion. If you're interested, by the way, I will be live by the time that this video goes live on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges, playing some Space Marine 2 with the community and their Twitch drops, including Requisition, I think. Which should be interesting. And it's going to be a long stream. We're just going to have a little bit of fun because it's something that I've been looking forward to, because the Tech Marine class is out and I want to check it out. So yeah, have a great day, guys, if not, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.